FNAF 3 released 11 years ago, and so did FNAF 4, so it's been a long ass time. I was 8 years old and was terrified of these games, despite my having zero knowledge on them, besides the cover on fake FNAF 2 fan games on the Google Play Store. I even thought that the Freddy on the cover was a scary bulldog that would chase you around until 6 AM. Anyway, theories. FNAF 3 is when theories got competent in my mind, at least some of them. Let's start with a quick fire round of pre-release theories. Springtrap is an amalgamation of all the other animatronics. Nope, not at all. This was just based on a teaser that kinda looked like it could be a Freddy and Bonnie squished together. Springtrap is a Bonnie. Yep, Spring Bonnie. The phone guy possesses the Spring Bonnie suit. Could be interesting, I guess, but no, that didn't happen. Springtrap is the killer. Yep, this is true. We see him take apart the original animatronics and get into the Spring Bonnie suit which he used to kill the kids, before being spring-locked, dying, and possessing the suit we defend against in gameplay. We'll play as someone staying at the attraction overnight at an event. Nope, we're playing as Mike from FNAF 1 again. The he in the trailer is the night guard. This is the he that is said to always come back and that someone has a place for him is the night guard, coming back for his third bout of scary berry fun. I could understand the thought at the time, however it literally cuts to the convulsing Springtrap after like it's, talking about him. Of course we now also connect the idea of always coming back to Springtrap and William Afton. Now on to post-release stuff. The puppets stuff the kids in the suits. Yeah, we more or less see this happen. Since it's an 8-bit minigame though, there's always some wiggle room for it being an interpretation, and that William stuffed them, but the puppet actually helped them to possess the suits, but more or less it's just a yes. Springtrap survived the burning. Yep, look at this cute little mug in this newspaper. The years it could be set in. There's a lot of years people pose as FNAF 3 taking place in, from 2015 to 2017 to as late as 2023. These are all, for the most part, based on the line in the game's description about it being 30 years after the closure of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. This could either refer to the company or to a specific location, and due to its focus on the legend of the missing children's incident, I believe it's referring to the original closure in 1985, and is set in 2015. There are other reasons for this, such as the survival logbook possibly needing inflation rates as of 2015 to complete a puzzle, which obviously couldn't use the 2023 inflation rates because the book came out in 2018. We can't really talk about FNAF theories without mentioning game theory. MatPat was actually very competent with the evidence we had this time. However, I don't think it was necessary to make a 3-part series totaling over 30 minutes just on this one game, which is longer than I spent discussing the whole series from 2014 to now. In it, he claims that Springtrap is the purple guy, the puppet stuffed the kids in the suits and gave them life, Mangle did the bite of 87, and the purple guy is the phone guy. So yep, Springtrap is the purple guy, the puppet at least partially gave life to the kids and maybe stuffed them in the suits, and Mangle may have done the bite of 87, we still don't know. However, the phone guy, as we know now, clearly isn't the purple guy. But even at the time, this was unlikely. His main point of evidence is that the phone guy likes Foxy, and the purple guy is smiling at Foxy in this minigame, and says that despite his knowledge of the danger of the spring lock suits, he didn't realise how damp the room was in his haste to escape the spirits, which also just explains away why William got caught in it. He also tries to explain away the whole phone guy dying in FNAF 1 Night 4 thing by saying that FNAF 1 is the aftermath of the bad ending of FNAF 3 where the spirits are still vengeful and restless. I guess he just chose to disregard that FNAF 3 is stated to take place decades after, and that the idea of getting the good ending in the future would influence the past and make the spirits retroactively at peace is just a little too dumb for this series, especially at the time. So yeah, I'd say it's about 80% there, and it's fair enough for the time to have no idea who the purple guy is, especially from the view that the series could be solved with just the first 3 games. It can't. His theories will never be as bad as the FNAF 1 theory though, not even when he covered Security Breach. The spirits are also haunting this location. This seems to be true, as we can see visions of other animatronics such as the Phantoms being of Withered Foxy, Balloon Boy, Withered Freddy, Withered Golden Freddy, and the Puppet. As well as the Phantoms though, that are implied to be hallucinations, is a physical incarnation of the Puppet that we can see on Cam 9, which has a reflection on the tiles. Which ending is canon? There's 2 endings, a good ending which frees the spirits of the MCI, and a bad ending which doesn't. At the time, I believe the good ending may have been intended to be canon, although I don't believe for a second that it was ever going to be the final game in the series like Scott stated. The good ending, I believe, should only be used as evidence for how a spirit may move on, mainly that closure is needed. I believe that this closure is actually found in a later game, FNAF 6, and so the idea of the spirit being freed then suddenly no longer being free just to be freed again is very odd to me. To be honest, FNAF 3 is kind of boring when it comes to theories, and the lore was a little heavy-handed in my opinion, so after launch the theories were never truly out there. But FNAF 4, subtitled The Final Chapter, is a little more obtuse. Real quick, this was never actually going to be the end. If you think Scott was ever going to be done with these games, I think that's a little silly. The story has never been close to complete at any point since FNAF 2 released. Dream Theory. This is the classic theory about this game, and came mainly from the Game Theory collaborative livestream with all your favourite theorists, like Dorko, MatPat, and Smike. Dream Theory has some pretty solid backing, and is similar to my current beliefs on what's going on in FNAF 4. Unfortunately, it came from Scott writing cryptic messages on his website during said livestream, which gave people a false sense of the lore. A prime example of this is the classic, in the FNAF 4 minigame, why would the tiny toy Chica be missing her beak? Which made a lot of people think that FNAF 2 was a literal dream, had by the crying child in which toy Chica loses her beak, because the toy of Chica also does. However, an explanation that doesn't make all the other games less important and arguably not canon, and also doesn't give the series a shitty ending of it was all a dream, is that the toy animatronics are just based off of toys of the characters, as the toy animatronics only debut years after the Bite of 83, which is what happens during FNAF 4. Now, I do believe that FNAF 4 gameplay is something of a dream. That, or nightmare chambers run by Purple Guy, as we see depicted in the book Didophobia. As we are defending against literal nightmare animatronics, and see plenty of weird hallucinations like hospital equipment randomly appearing next to the bed. Who are we playing as? There's a few theories from the time that were fine to believe, as we didn't really get a definitive answer until much later. There were claims that we were playing as the victim of the Bite of 87, but this was soon found to be wrong, because we can see on the TV here that it's 1983. So this is an event called the Bite of 83, or the Big Bite. There were also a few theories on which animatronic our character is likely to possess after they die, with the main contenders being the Puppet and Golden Freddy. Starting with the Puppet, this had a decent argument at the time, with the crying child and the Puppet having distinctive crying marks on the designs as well as stripes on the child's shirt resembling the stripes on the Puppet's limbs. We now know that the Puppet is possessed by Charlotte Emily, daughter of the Purple Guy's business partner who hadn't been written into the games at all yet. Golden Freddy also had some evidence, mainly being that the child is followed around by some kind of Golden Freddy spirit or robot which speaks to him, and also his head is crushed by a Fredbear, aka Golden Freddy animatronic. We know now it's most likely the spirit or one of two spirits instead of Golden Freddy, depending on what you believe. What's in the box? There's a locked box that appears when you finish the game, and when you try and open it, text appears which says, maybe some things are better left forgotten, for now. We still don't know exactly what was intended to be in the box, but some people like MatPat thought it would be the Puppet, confirming that the crying child possessed it. We can't confirm or deny any theory about it though, as Scott said he doesn't intend to reveal it. That's about it for interesting theories that don't just boil down to nope, because we find out in a later game. See ya fellas.